Welcome back to Eye in San Francisco. I'm Andrea Cinque. We've been talking with Jon Barron, the health renaissance man. I love that term, John, health renaissance man. I know I say it a lot, but it's like so appropriate for you. And we've been having a lively conversation about health legislation, health reform, empowering ourselves to be better knowledge about health alternatives and keeping well. And we touched on the myths in the media about kava kava and ephedra being bad for us, when in fact it was smoke and mirrors.
Right.
And with that said, tell me more about U.S. health freedoms compared to other countries. How's that?
Well, actually, surprisingly, even though we've been bad-mouthing the United States, it's actually better here than in most other countries.
Amazing.
At one time, that was not true, but at one time, Germany was very big into herbs, but Europe has been spearheading a couple of things. The Codex Alimentarius, which is an attempt to make a sort of a worldwide coverage of all health supplements, to downgrade the amount that you can have in vitamins, to regulate herbs, to basically to make them ineffective. They've passed a European health initiative already based on Codex that limits the ability of many Europeans to gain access to nutrients and access to information. So the United States, despite all the faults that we talked about, is actually still ahead of many other countries, which is actually sort of encouraging.
I'm delighted because I was ready to move to Turkey.
No, probably not a good choice.
I love Turkey, though. That's why I said that. Yeah. But you're right, a little too close to Iraq and Iran.
Well, I meant in terms of access to the supplements you want. You may have a problem.
Oh, yes, that's true. Okay. That's true. So tell me more about where we could look in the future, like say 5 years down the road. Where will we be? If we empower ourselves as consumers, if we listen to you and read your newsletter and research more about supplements and the importance of leading healthy lifestyles that are lifelong, not diets, lifestyles. Where will we be in 5 years?
I'm going to answer that in a roundabout way because it's one of the things you need to understand. It's about odds. There are no guarantees. We've all heard the story of the 95-year-old man who finally dies because he's shot to death by a jealous husband who finds the old man and wife with in bed with his 20-year-old wife. And this is a guy who smoked and drank every day of his life. You can find those exceptions. But we know the odds are if you smoke and drink heavily, you won't make it that long. So again, if you lead a proper lifestyle, we're talking about odds, your odds improving, your odds of not having osteoporosis, of not having heart disease. It's not that we're looking to live forever, which sounds actually rather boring if you think about it. What we're really looking for is to live at an optimal level for as long as we can. And then we just have the body go naturally. What everyone really is terrified of is that decay that begins in the mid to late 30s and just takes you steadily downhill, compromising your ability to enjoy life as you get older. Some of the statistics are frightening. Osteoporosis is not an automatic. There are countries that don't have it. In the United States, I can see you're looking shocked. We can talk about that.
Well, especially because,
No, a lot of it is diet, and a lot of it is
calcium, not enough calcium.
Actually, surprisingly, dairy, too much dairy. The countries that have the highest consumption of dairy in the world have the highest rates of osteoporosis. And there's a reason for that, because it has to do a lot with the alkalinity of the body. We're sort of taking a piece of the puzzle here. One of the things you have to be aware of is that the diets that we eat today, which contain meats, dairy, cooked grains, sugars, are all acid forming in the body. Now, by that, your blood doesn't change. If your blood changes like more than a tenth of a point, you die. But your body will change everything else to protect the blood. And what happens, it changes the pH of tissue. The body really needs to be in a state of about, without getting technical, it's a number that represents how alkaline or acid it is. It needs to be slightly acid at about 7.45 to 7.5. That's where your tissue is healthy. As it moves into the acid range, 6.0, 5.5, all kinds of diseases can flourish. Cancer flourishes in an acid environment. Most disease flourishes in an acid environment. One of the things that happens is your body, to protect against that, will buffer any excess acidity. And it uses calcium to buffer. What it does, it uses the calcium with the acid to create an acid salt that passes out in your urine. Well, if you continually are taking in foods that are very acidic, you're using all the available calcium. You can see it first if you test your saliva. you'll find that it's going very acidic. Then it goes in the soft tissue. And then it goes literally to the bone bank, or the calcium bank in your body, your bones. It will take calcium from your bones to buffer that acid. Well, dairy is very acidic and has a lot of phosphorus. It needs to be buffered. So you literally are using more calcium to process the dairy than you're getting out of the dairy.
I mean, I didn't know that. I feel stupid. I should know this.
Well, no, I mean, again, a lot of it, and dairy is an interesting thing, and I don't want to take on the dairy industry per se, but there are questions about dairy. People tend to be highly allergic to it. Cow's milk is not really designed for humans, certainly not the processed homogenized. If you are going to do dairy, you're better off.
Soy milk.
No, actually, I'm not a big fan of soy.
Oh.
That's it. Okay.
Another discussion.
Another discussion on the excessive estrogens. I think in the last show we talked about the statistic of young girls. It's not only xenoestrogens, it's exposure to excessive estrogens in soy. We have a tendency here in the States, if something is good, we believe a whole lot of it must be better. And the fact is, in the Orient, they don't eat anywhere near the amount of soy we do. And what they do eat is actually fermented, and the body processes that better. It also neutralizes soy by itself. Actually contains phytates that block the absorption of calcium. When you ferment it, the phytates are eliminated and you can absorb calcium. So if you have a lot of soy, it blocks absorption of minerals. So there are a lot of factors. It's not a simple thing. There's no magic bullet. It's, again, being informed. It's one of the things in Lessons from the Miracle Doctors that we talked about.
Your book.
My book. And you can download a free copy, or as I say, I'm always happy if you want to buy it from Amazon.com. But Lessons from the Miracle Doctors is literally it's that step-by-step program. It talks about diet, what diet is, how you basically correct deficiencies, how you correct things that are toxic to you. But everything has an impact. Food is a series of chemicals. And unlike the medical establishment's claim that it can only harm you, that's not true. Food can be beneficial or it can be harmful. Something that's beneficial in small amounts may be harmful in large amounts. A lot of it is common sense. If you just basically go back to more natural things, the kinds of things you did before a balanced diet, you don't have a problem. Your problem is when you start shifting into processed foods, the power aisle, sodas. Sodas actually are probably the single biggest culprit in osteoporosis. They're highly acidic. There is, in a sugared soda, it's about a teaspoon, just short of a teaspoon in every ounce of soda. So you see kids walking around with those 32-ounce big gulps. It's just under a cup of sugar in each soda.
And yet, in cafeterias across America, they're soda machines.
They're starting to change again because of awareness and pressure. But yes, you're right. And in fact, the schools get kickbacks from the companies that sell the soda.
Of course they get. But the point is, from an early age, they're teaching them to put sugar in their body.
Absolutely. And it's addictive. So again, as a parent, there's a limit to what you can do, because a child goes out on their own, they're going to do certain things. But if you make children aware, if enough people do it, you cross critical mass, things become current. Like omega-3 fatty acids, which no one talked about a year ago, are now very much the buzzword. People still don't understand it and use it properly. They don't understand the key is that omega-6, omega-3 balance we talked about. But awareness can grow if people choose to become aware, and you start to get momentum going in a direction.
Well, I must give credit to the media, because every channel that you turn on has a health segment or a health reporter now, okay? Every major newspaper across the country has a health writer or health columnist or health special sections. So at least the media is trying to come on board and teach their readers that we've got to do something, because,
That's the good side. The bad side is the people they're turning to are basically the doctors who took 6 to 8 hours of nutrition.
Right. And that's the point I was going to make, is that the downside is, look who they're going to be their spokespeople, to be their resources.
Right.
They should be looking at people who spend 30, 40 years, such as yourself. Yeah. I mean, I'm giving you a credit here, who really understand the problems, who understand what the solution is. You're the one who should be out there. You're the one who should be quoted, and others like you, because there are other people out there, the Andrew Wiles of the world, and, and others.
The case, for example, on omega-3, which the FDA just allowed last year to make a claim that it can help prevent heart disease, that's been preached for decades, several decades, by people in the health industry. Other examples, folic acid. For how many years have people been saying that supplementing with folate actually prevented birth defects? How many thousands and thousands and thousands of children suffered from birth defects while basically there was resistance from the establishment community and the FDA? By turning to the wrong people, in effect, people get harmed. And that's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And I hope that there is a turn, a more heightened awareness, that is, so that we just learn to do and make the right choices and be healthier. I know, just having spoken with you for 2 shows now, I've learned so much, and I appreciate that because I'm middle-aged, I'm considered middle-aged, and I believe that it's never too late to start over. You mentioned osteoporosis. Well, I don't have osteoporosis, but I know that I could get osteoporosis, and I also know that heart disease is reversible.
Yes.
And that even though I have heart disease in my family, and I may not eat a heart-healthy diet all the time, that I could learn to live a better lifestyle so that I'm not at risk. And anyone who's watching this show should learn the same thing.
Well, in fact, you said it's never too late. Here's a great statistic. They found that people in their 90s can, in a matter of 10 weeks or less, increase muscle strength by over 300% if they start exercising. You're absolutely right. It's never too late.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. And that's huge because one of the problems as people get older, one of the biggest problems is basically hip injuries as they fall.
Right, exactly.
You build muscle, it gives you stability, and it protects the bones. And basically, you're building muscle mass around those bones.
And I mean, you're not talking 90-year-olds like lifting weights in a gym. You're talking about just exercise like walking or riding a bicycle for 20 minutes, aren't you? Or swimming.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing bodybuilding, but doing some weight bearing. The weight bearing exercise builds bone strength, it builds muscle mass, aerobic, and flexibility is another one. People tend to be very stiff.
Oh, yes, and that brings on so many ailments. In fact, just sitting here in this chair for a half hour, I'm thinking, oh, gee, my lower back, you know? So I hear you. I really hear you. So the message is get out and move. Get your body to move. Get your muscles to move and to be strengthened.
You're only as strong as the weakest link, and that's really important to understand. If you exercise but you don't clean yourself out, you'll succumb to that. You need to do it all, or otherwise you succumb to the weakest part of the body. The essence of the baseline of health is, and all the doctors that I met who treated all the diseases, they didn't treat the disease. They basically said, let's optimize the body to do what it's designed to do. The body is designed to be healthy if you don't get in the way. Clean out the toxic substances, give it the nutrition, exercise it. If you do that, it's pretty much a miraculous machine.
Yes. Well, let's take care of our bodies the way people take care of their cars, right?
You know, people spend more time and more money on their cars than they do on their bodies.
And we'll end the show on that note. Jon, a pleasure.
Wonderful again.
We'll see you again sometime very soon, I hope, on CNN maybe.
Thank you.
I'm Andrea Cinque, Ion San Francisco. Thank you for joining us today.
ITV.